Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Ummahpreneur podcast. My guest today on this episode is Brother Omar Dacosta Shahid, who is the owner of a group of companies, including M.I.N, which is a brand that works with Muslim influencers and connects them with global brands around the world, as well as the managing director of a creative agency called One Studio, which works with visionary startups. So in our conversation today, we're going to talk all about connecting Muslim influencers to brands. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about, creative design and everything in between, really, in regards to his experience as an entrepreneur. So there's going to be a lot to learn. Make sure to sit tight and listen closely. Brother Ahmad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi
How
wa
are you
barakatuh.
today?
I'm very well, very well. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, very good, very good. I'm excited that we were able to do this together just right before Ramadan. So today, actually, we're recording this. It's a Friday, and tomorrow is going to be the first day of Ramadan, inshallah, which is pretty awesome. I'm excited.
Depending which moon sighting kind of.
Of course, we all know that there's always it's like the last minute. All right, is it or is it not? Right. So we gotta like essentially keep an eye out, but it might be. So I'm excited if it ends up being the first day of Ramadan. Then that's going to be really awesome, inshallah. And if it's not, that's okay too. But I'm really excited for Ramadan. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's always a nice time to reflect and take stock and kind of rejuvenate for the rest of the year. So it's a really special time.
Definitely. Completely agreed. And to start our conversation off in regards to entrepreneurship, I like to ask every single guest about their background in their own words, what gravitated them to entrepreneurship. For yourself, what is it that inspired you to become an entrepreneur instead of following the traditional route of a 9 to 5?
So to be honest, it kind of just happened. It wasn't necessarily a plan. I don't think growing up, I was always like, I want to be a entrepreneur, but I always thought differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I was always a pretty good networker. And for the first, I suppose, 3-4 years post uni, I wasn't. I didn't have my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, in 2016, I met my business partner, Saif, and we set up the world's first Muslim influencer agency.
Mm-hmm.
And we got together. We're like, you know what? We're both Muslim. We both believe. We're both marketeers. We both believe in the power of influencers. Why don't we come together to create something that's never been done before, which is a world's first Muslim influencer network, where we connect Muslim influencers with brands and also look to nurture influencers, work with them, help them create a framework, and harness the power, leverage the power that they have to make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd previously been working with Muslim influencers before that, for the few years before that.
Yeah.
My business partner had a fashion company where I was working with influencers. So with our kind of combined experience, we thought we would launch that. And since then, we've gone on to launch a few other companies as well.
Amazing, mashallah. It's really amazing to hear. And it's really great that you've built this, because for businesses within the Muslim space, it's something that is desperately needed, right? Because we all know, well, actually, if you can share with me why influencers, what is the power of influencers and connecting with influencers to grow your brand?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the reasons we set up M.I.N was because we kind of felt like it was wild, wild west out there, that influencers were doing anything, saying anything, and also a lot of it was very superficial. Taking pictures of their food and selfies, which is fine to some extent, but what can you do with your platform to make a genuine difference in the lives of your followers? So that's one aspect, is the kind of working with influencers to leverage their platform, their following, and so on. But the business aspect of it is we noticed that increasingly brands wanted to connect with the Muslim market. And one of the most effective ways to do this, I suppose, in 2022 is through influencer marketing. It's been growing year on year for the past 7 years. It's worth, I believe, the influencer spend in 2022 is at least $50 billion. So it's a really great way to promote your brand, and it's basically word of mouth at scale. And people trust influencers. There is obviously some questions around whether some influencers are just a bit of narcissists and stuff, but by and large, influencer marketing does work. It is effective. It creates great brand awareness and conversions. So it's a great way to level up your business.
Yeah, definitely. And with influencers, it actually gives you that automatic, well, for a brand that's just starting off, who doesn't necessarily have a following, doesn't necessarily have an audience, it's a way to tap into the audience that you want to connect with instantly, right? So if your audience, for example, you're a Muslim brand, you're catered to Muslims, if you go and connect with a Muslim influencer who has a high number of following on social media, that allows you to connect with sometimes tens of thousands of Muslims in one single shot. Whereas, if you didn't have that option, it would take so much work to grow your brand, grow your following, and then eventually get to that point. So for yourselves, building and growing this agency for you, when you made that decision to build this agency, working with influencers, connecting them with brands, what were the steps, the first initial steps that you have taken to turn that vision into a reality? If you can kind of walk us through maybe the main milestones for you, like business idea, what came next after the business idea?
Sure. So, to be honest with you, a lot of it was just trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when anybody starts their first business, there's always an element of you kind of just learn along the way, etc. But there were some really important things that we knew had to be done. The first is having a strong sense of why, your purpose. And if you don't have that, sometimes you can get lost. If business slows down, you're kind of questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
So anchoring everything you do in the reason why you've set it up. And for us, the reason we set it up is our original kind of slogan was empowering the influencers of today to better the society of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that was at the heart of why we set up the agency. The second thing is establishing a strong team, because you're only as good as your team is, and there's only certain skills that founders will have.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Safe, we're not from tech backgrounds. For example, we're from marketing backgrounds. Neither are we from financial operational backgrounds. So building the team who can complement your skills is also really important.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing is really just the idea of relationship building. No matter who it is, so whether it's with influencers, building strong relationships with your clients, or just generally, networking amongst other business people and so on. Because ultimately, I've noticed most startups tend to win business through relationships, people they know. So it's often who you know that makes a big difference within business. So that's a really fundamental part is networking, and that's something I say to young people all the time. Is if you really want to create leverage, then network, because people open up doors for you. So those are a few of the things that we knew from the beginning were really important.
I have a few questions about those two things. Actually, I would like to dive deeper into them because for someone listening to this, we have a big entrepreneur audience, and they're going to be like, "Okay, I get it. How do I apply this?" Right? So, with you mentioned one of those points is building a team. For someone that's starting off in building a business, going from idea to reality, they don't have any income or revenue yet to build a team. They might not have enough coming in to sustain a team. And so for you guys, how did you overcome that? Did you just go around giving equity and bringing on partners, or did you wait until the business had its first few clients and was generating revenue before you started to go and hire?
Sure. So for the first year, I think it was just there were three directors originally. One didn't continue with us. Then there was two of us. I was working in my bedroom. Saif was working in a shed. So there was a lot of hustling within the first year, which is pretty normal for most startups. And we just started to win business through our networks. And one of the things that really helped us, by the way, and this is maybe a conversation we can have, is personal brand. And we've got to a point now where, because of myself and Saif's LinkedIn, probably 50% of our business comes through our LinkedIn. So personal brand is super, super important, which ties into some extent with the relationship building. So the personal brand, the kind of hustling was the initial step to bring in the business. Once we're at a certain level, certain cash flow, we knew we could hire. And we initially were hiring people who kind of fill the gaps that Me and Saif didn't have. So we started with a few staff, and I think as of last month, we were about 22 or 23 full-time staff. So I think that the key thing is when you're looking to hire, you have to hire according to your weaknesses. Don't just hire people who do the same things as you. And I think the recruitment process is really important, because sometimes you can really like somebody, which is often the reason you hire them, but it doesn't mean they necessarily the right fit for your company, you have to think about culture fit. You have to think about their competency. You have to think about the long-term ambitions and so on. So I think it's every founder will basically figure out when the right time to hire is. But hiring is super important because the wrong hires can break your business, and the right hires can make your business.
Yeah.
So I think that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely echo your sentiment. Even within Ummahpreneur, I definitely wouldn't be able to be where I am today without my team, and even just the vision that we have and the direction we're going wouldn't be possible without them. So it's so crucial to have the right people on the bus before you decide where the bus is going. Now, you also mentioned another point in regards to the 3 steps. You mentioned, of course, the connections, the networking, the personal brand. So how did you go about doing that? Right.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of some of the things I used to do when I was younger. So there's a journalist called Mehdi Hassan. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's in the West. He's probably one of the most known Muslim journalists. And I remember one time on Twitter, I said to him, this was probably in like 2012 or something. I said to him, big fan. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should follow me back. And I basically listed out 5 reasons for him, and he followed me back. And that just built started a relationship with him. And then I met up with him one time at an event, spoke with him. We kept in touch. We started emailing. We were even both invited to Turkey one time by the government together. So sometimes there's an element of the hustle in building relationships. Other times it's literally going out of your comfort zone, going to events, conferences, and just talking to the person next to you. That's something I often do. Is once the talk is finished, I'll just say, how did you find the talk? Did you enjoy it? And then start asking, what do you do? And then, I remember I did that with someone a few months ago, and the guy was like, I'm an investor. I was like, oh, that's nice. So you don't discount the importance of just talking to people, network, going to events. Look, if you don't go out and you don't network, you're not going to magically meet people. You have to put in that effort. So I would encourage every young person, every kind of entrepreneur to really take that seriously. Go out, meet people, and sometimes have a plan. If there's somebody you want to pin down, have a plan of how you want to get in touch with them. And you have to sometimes put a bit of a strategy together in order to reach certain people, especially if they're very busy or very high profile, etc.
Yeah, no, definitely. You bring up a good point. And this is, to be honest with you, this is the reason why I love this podcast so much, because it has allowed myself to be able to connect with so many amazing Muslims, including yourself, and have these conversations. Whereas if I didn't have it, it would be, well, at least for me, I feel like I would be focusing 100% of my time on the business, because I'm very much someone who likes to put his head down and just do the work. And so for me, socializing, being the social butterfly, doesn't come naturally. So this podcast is a way for me to really just make sure that I have a consistent way of connecting with new people, having those conversations in a scenario where I otherwise wouldn't. So if an entrepreneur is listening to this and they're like, you know what, I don't really have a way to connect with people, start a podcast, interview people. That's a great way to do it. So right now, where is M.I.N? What does the future look like for you guys? What's the next step?
Sure. So one thing we've always dreamed of doing, which we're hoping we're coming close to, is the idea of building a world-class network of talented, visionary Muslim influencers who work together to tackle some of society's biggest issues. And the reason this is important is because we're facing so many issues as a society, from potential war to climate change to rising mental health issues and so on. And the truth is that influencers can actually influence, if they're actual true influencers, their followers to make a difference. So, if an influencer really wants to, they can put out a petition and get thousands of people to sign it within a few hours, or they can encourage their followers to take action. And what we want to do is bring together the most kind of powerful, visionary, ethical influences that we find across the world, and unify them behind a common cause, which is to make a difference in the world, tackle some of these big issues. So that's kind of the social arm of M.I.N, not so much the business arm. And we're currently kind of in great discussions with some really interesting people to make this happen. So that's one of the things about M.I.N. We're also just entering our busiest month of the year, which is Ramadan, where there's lots of work to do. But the new agency that we've just started is One Studio, which is a creative agency for visionary startups. They should have at least 1.5 million in funding in the past 12 months, so that we know they've got some runway. Sometimes you work with startups and they just run out of money, and it's like, it's not worth it sometimes. So yeah, that's the latest agency. We're really excited about that. We've got a really strong team around that. So those are two of the things that we're working on at the moment.
What would you be focusing on in One Studio? Is this a digital marketing agency? Is this a creative design agency? What is it that you're working on with your clients?
Sure. So there are a few things that we specialize in. One is brand identity. Our creative director, Danny, comes with 13 years experience when it comes to branding everyone from the O2, Arsenal, Leeds Football Club, Citroen, Pizza Hut and the post office and so on. So we've got a really strong team of people like him. So that's branding. There's also design, which feeds into that. And there's also content. So we've just shot a really nice advert, for example, for a translation of the Quran that hopefully a lot of people will see this Ramadan, which featured actors and different scenes. And it was the idea of kind of passing on the Quran to different people in different settings. So content is another one. And finally, social. So social strategy we're providing to brands as well. So yeah, those are some of the creative services that we focus on.
Awesome. That's really nice to hear, mashallah. So it looks like we're working on multiple projects as an entrepreneur. For you, I want to ask you, what is it that drives you? What is your why? Why is it that you are constantly looking and seeking ways to deliver more value to the world, to build these businesses that will have a certain impact?
So from the age of 7, I wanted to be a journalist, and I was a journalist for a short period of time. I had this strong feeling within me that I wanted to become a journalist because I wanted to make an impact in the world, uncover uncover stories and tell important stories and so on. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I became a bit disaffected with the journalism industry, and I basically quit. And I thought, where can I harness, or where can I still continue to do something meaningful? And that was through influencers, and it was through marketing. I think one of the big issues that Muslims face at the moment is kind of our PR, the way we're represented. And I think that, we need, it may sound like a bit of a crude term, PR, to associate with Islam, but, for want of a better phrase, we'll use that. And likewise, marketing, if Muslims can really create a lot better content, portray themselves in the right way through social, through content and media and so on, then I think it can have a really powerful impact on the way we're perceived. So I'm quite driven by the idea of portraying Muslims positively, putting out good stories, even if it's Muslim businesses as well. And likewise, when we're working with mainstream brands, how we can authentically connect them with Muslims to create a more meaningful relationship between both sides. So it's the idea of understanding as well. So I think there's lots of great things that we can all do in different fields. And I think there's currently a gap when it comes to kind of marketing and PR for the Muslim community. And that's one of the things that drives me.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear, mashallah. It's really, really inspiring. And I like that you have a strong why, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they get into this journey sometimes. And of course, when you come from a place, I think there are different phases of entrepreneurship. And when you're first getting started, you're usually coming from a place of survival. And what that means is that you're trying to start a business to see, can I have this business run in a way where it can provide me enough income where I don't have to work at my job and I can focus full time on this. And when you're initially starting, the impact portion, the passion portion, the why portion is usually not a priority in people's minds, and they're more looking at like what is profitable, what is going to make money, what is going to allow me to kind of live off of this, right? And it's something that I always have to work to remind my students when they're first starting, because they'll go and they'll be captivated by all these shiny business ideas that they think this is what's in right now, this is what's working, and I have to remind them, well, look, of course, market viability is a portion, but at the end of the day, we have to look at also what your interests are, where your passions lie, and what it is that you want to do. Because even if you build a successful business that is profitable, that is generating millions of dollars, if it's not what you want to do, if it doesn't interest you, you've just bought yourself another job, right? Instead of working for another company, you're working for yourself, but you're working for yourself in something that you don't care about. So we have to make sure that you build a business where you actually care about the result that you want to get or provide to your clients, with the world, whatever it is you want to do. You have a certain connection to the outcome, right? And when that connection is there, that will drive you to take action, make the right decisions, think bigger, get the right team on board, do whatever is necessary to be successful. And I think that is so important in business. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there's a direct link between purpose and profit, by the way. There's been studies, for example, I think it's Brand Z, they released a study which showed that businesses that have a strong purpose make 3 times the amount of money that businesses who don't. So there's a business case for having a purpose as well.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, the passion element is really important. That if you're passionate about what you do, you'll probably be better at it,
Yeah.
and it will sustain you. And just having that purpose and passion is really important. Jim Collins, I think, in his Good to Great talks about that as well. That you have to have a strong sense of purpose. It has to be economically viable, and various other things. So it's purpose and passion are, I think, fundamental to your success.
If you were looking back at your journey right now, if you were to think of 3 skills that have really come handy for you throughout your journey, that have helped you get to where you are today and will inshallah help you go even further, what are the 3 major skills that you feel like if an entrepreneur could have would really help them achieve success in their business? And maybe that's going to help inspire someone listening to this to go and pursue those skills, get better at those skills, and thus have more success in their journey.
Sure. Put me a bit on the spot there. To think through things. I would go back to the idea of networking. I don't think we can discount the importance of it. Like I said, people open doors for you. So that should be fundamental, especially if you're a founder or CEO. I think it's arguable that your main job is to network. So that's one thing. The second thing is I would really emphasize the importance of personal brand. Some people may feel uncomfortable with it because it may not be natural to get in front of the camera or to create content or whatever it might be. But if you can genuinely connect with people and you can get people invested in what you're doing, it will drive business as well as provide a sense of fulfillment to you. So networking is really important. Personal brand is really important. And what just was the question? 3 things to
three skills that you feel like have really helped you on your journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure. And I think the third thing is the idea of emotional intelligence. Something that the Prophet ﷺ was kind of really great at. Emotional intelligence is the thing which allows you to understand and connect with people. Whether it's your team or whether it's clients or so on. Nobody wants someone who is just kind of emotionless and doesn't understand people and can connect with people. So that's like building human connections is really important. And it's only when you have that, emotional intelligence that you can really connect with people on a deeper level. So those are 3 things that I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Networking, personal brand, and emotional intelligence. 3 amazing skills to develop. So I appreciate you sharing that. There's a question that I ask every single guest that comes on this podcast. It's one of my favorites. And the question is the following. If you could meet Omar, who was 18 years old, kind of go back in time and you could tell him one thing, you were only allowed to tell him one thing that he could hold on to throughout his journey of entrepreneurship as he goes through the trials, the tribulations, the challenges. What is that one thing? What would you tell your younger self if you could meet him and give him one piece of advice?
Oh, it's a tough one. Okay, I'm going to say the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, no problem.
I might change my mind later on. The key thing would be, do not waste your time. Do not spend time on frivolous things, and really make the most of your youth. I turned 30 recently, and I feel like my body's not the same as it used to be even a
Man,
few
I
years
can relate, bro. Come on, don't get me started on that, bro.
like I go to play football and I just can't run the same way I used to run.
Yeah.
That's kind of from a physical perspective, but from a spiritual, mental perspective as well. You really have to make the most of your time, because time flies. Before you know it, you go from 20 to 30, and you're married, you have kids, and you have less time than you did originally. And this is the thing: people underestimate like when you're not married, that you've actually got a lot more free time, and you've got a lot less responsibilities. And a lot of Muslims complain, saying, "I really want to get married," which is great. Marriage is a fantastic blessing, but there's also a blessing before that, and there's a lot of barakah in your time, because you've got more time. So alongside that is the idea of waking up early. The Prophet ﷺ talked about how there's barakah in the early hours of the morning. So one thing we should all try to implement, I think in the summer it's a bit more difficult, but staying awake after Fajr, after the morning prayer, just because when you wake up early, you can get so much more done in the day. And often we're at our most alert in the morning as well, and we can really get into deep work, work which moves the needle, work where you can focus and make great change because of that. Because when the day starts and everything's, you're firefighting and there's people calling you and emailing you and everything, you can't really focus as well. So making the most of your time and linking into that is making sure you establish a habit of waking up early.
100%. I really, really love that piece of advice. Just like al for sharing that, brother Ahmad. This was something that I resonate with as well, and I think I completely agree with. And not just the portion about getting old, but also the portion about making the most of your time. Because looking back, even for myself, I always think to myself, man, if I started when I was like 16, 15, I also wasn't one of those like I always felt like I wanted to do something. I was always trying to do things. Even when I was young in high school, I was like bought a video camera, tried to like start a YouTube channel with my friends, but I didn't have that discipline yet that is required with entrepreneurship. But looking back, I always think to myself, man, if I had, kind of the discipline, the bigger vision to actually work on developing skills that now would have come in handy, I would be, it would help me so much throughout my journey. And so I really agree with that sentiment. If there's someone that's younger listening to this, you have such an amazing opportunity to go and acquire those skills and work on personal growth and building yourself, so that inshallah, when you need those skills, when you go and get married and you have less time, you have what is necessary to be able to get to that next level, and you're not kind of like playing catch up. Of course, every person still goes through their journey, and I think that it is also never too late. I don't want to say this and kind of insinuate to people that like, well, it's either when you're younger or never. It is never too late for you to start. It's never too late for you to go and embark on that journey, whether you're 40 or 50 or even 60, and you decide that, well, now I'm retiring and I have time on my hands. Well, sure, go and work on that passion project. Go and do something that you feel like excites you, that you want to bring into the world. It's never too late. But of course, in that same sentiment, if you're listening to this and you're younger, I definitely would agree with you that it would be best to make the most of your time and really take advantage of that period in your life, because it's such an amazing period. You have that energy, you have that youth, you have, you can learn better, literally. And so it's such a great time. So just like al khair for sharing that. It was a good one.
No, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Brother, where can people go and connect with you? Where can they go and support you? If they want to go and maybe work with M.I.N, get their brand, get some exposure for their brand, thanks to Muslim influencers, where should we direct them, inshallah?
I think easiest thing would be just to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the platform I tend to use the most. So if you type in Omar Dacosta Shahid in LinkedIn, inshallah, you'll find me, and just connect with me, send me a message, keep in touch. Anyone wants anything, advice or anything, happy to help.
Awesome. We'll make sure, if it's okay with you, we'll include your LinkedIn profile in the description and episode notes so people can go and find it and connect right away, inshallah. And really, Jazakallah khair for joining me today. It was an awesome conversation and there was a lot to take away. So I appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure, brother. And you guys know the drill. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to go and leave us a rating and review on your favorite audio platform. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And of course, if you need some support with your own business and your entrepreneurship journey, you can go out to ummahpreneur.com. There's going to be a few resources there that you can take advantage of. And also, you can search Ummahpreneur on social media to be able to connect with us as well. And we'll see you in the next episode, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.